Welcome to the IBMS Lothian and Borders podcast.
Is there enough bagpipe in that? Hello, my name is Mike Gray and I'd like to welcome you to the IBMS Lothian and Borders branch podcast. What's all this about, you might ask? Well, for those of you listening who don't know, the Institute of Biomedical Science, which is the professional body for biomedical scientists in the UK, has branches in all corners of the country, and in the southeast of Scotland, where Edinburgh and the Borders sit, we have a branch. So this podcast was an idea from the branch committee to look at, in the first instance, at career stories of biomedical scientists. Why career stories? There is a lot of information out there on how to get into biomedical science, and there are some podcasts that focus on scientific topics. But from a people perspective, we often get very useful talks from senior individuals in the profession. And as interesting as they are, the committee hit upon the idea of listening to all levels of staff involved in biomedical science with the aim of capturing the stories of professionals you might not necessarily hear from, and to look at all stages of the career ladder. So each story, we hope, will be inspirational. Each story will have a message, and if anything, will highlight the myriad of ways that people get into biomedical science. So if you like stories and finding out about people, then stick around. What could possibly go wrong? Hello, everybody. This time, we're here with Kevin Waugh. That's what I've been told it is. It's not Kevin Waugh, it's Kevin Waugh, as in the Scottish loch. That's for you English people out there. Is that right, Kevin?
I think so, yep, we'll go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Kevin Waugh, right. Kevin, thanks for taking part in this today. Without going into too much detail, because we're going to go into detail on what you actually do on a day-to-day basis further into this wee chat, where are you currently working and what are you doing? So
I'm currently here at the Western General Hospital in Edinburgh. I'm currently a support worker here. So through the day, basically, I do loads of things. I do quite a lot. But at the moment, I'm in blood bank working in there. I've just been moved there just before Christmas, actually.
Right, okay.
I've taken a role up in there, which has been quite good. But before that, it would be working in sample reception, picking up the samples, sorting things out, and then it would go to, I could be in GI the next again day, or I could be in antenatals the next day.
Right, okay. So we'll get into that detail further on, right? Because we like to do the bit where we explain to people out there that don't know anything about labs what it is you might actually do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
But if we go, and you're at a relatively early stage of any career that you might have, yeah?
Yeah.
If you go back to right to the very beginning, before you knew that laboratories potentially existed, how did this start? What piqued your interest in getting a job? Well,
I mean, it went back to when I did the talk at the IBMS conference, and that was at high school. With my biology teacher, Mr. McDonald, and the funny story about the packet of crisps.
Tell us the story, because nobody was at the conference.
So probably about well, in primary school we never got science very much. So it wasn't until high school I got to do science. You got to do biology, chemistry, physics, and it was really good. And my regi teacher was Mr. McDonald, and he wanted to get more folk into science basically. And I was like, nah, it's not really for me. And and as a wee bit of the joker in the class, he was like, well, I said, maybe you could give us a bribe. And he's like, well, cans of Coke and cheese and onion crisps, how was that sound? And I was like, it sort of, a few folk decided that it would go along. So, and I thought, I suggested the idea, so I better come along to it. So I think it was like 5 weeks we did it, and it was like an hour and a half after school. And a lot of folk were thinking it was like detention, but it actually wasn't. It was really good because you sat down and you had all the microscopes laid out, and you had all the different, science experiments that you could do. And it was really good. Like we cut up onions, and we cut up, what else did we cut up? You had like fake blood cells, and you had that under the microscope, and he was showing us all the different things, and it really sparked my interest. But then I fell towards more physics, and I really liked physics and the electronics and like the dangerous stuff. So I went for that to leaving high school, and I went to do computing science at college.
Okay. What year was that? The Packet of Crisps episode was in?
The Packet of Crisps would have been about second year at high school, so that would have been about 2002. Yeah, it would have been 2002.
And did you carry that on? So you said you ended up leaving school. You didn't leave school in second year.
No. So I didn't follow through in the biology. I took physics as a standard grade, as it was known then. And I think I got a foundation in physics then. But then that led me on to like college, that sort of let me access to the computing side of the science sort of side of things, and that was quite interesting because my tutor at college, he used to write like science programs for the machines.
Yep.
That we work with now. He used to program them, and that's what it was all about, is programming like machines to take like bits of sample to different places. But I only did a year of that, and then I came out, and it just wasn't quite for me. And then I decided.
So you'd left school and went to college to do basically programming.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. At a science sort of level, so it was like writing programs for like an access level to go to university to continue on. But I never fell through on it. It was just too complicated, I'd say, which is a bit strange. But it was good. But I think I really needed to get out there and actually like find a job sort of thing. Because it was the situation was, with money wise, was quite dire. Yeah. Because it was only like £60 a fortnight, and I mean I could have got a part-time job, but I think in myself I wasn't really wanting to do that. I think I was looking to get out of it, and then that was when they used to like I got the paper, and there was job advert for a science technician at Charles River Laboratories, and that's when I joined that. That was about 2006. It would have been 2006 then.
So Charles River Labs. That's remind me where that is again. That's out in Trinent. Right. Okay. So that's East Lothian. Yeah. So that's near Edinburgh for folk listening. And what is it they do there? Is it R&D stuff?
So it's mostly preclinical drug discovery. So like they'll get a lot of clients from like AstraZeneca, GlaxoSmithKline, the big companies like that, and they'll contract Charles River out with the drug discovery, and they'll set out programs and studies, and they'll analyse drugs and make up drugs, and then they would test them at a animal level. So they would do the pre-testing on animals. So like if they came and they had a drug for cancer, that's where they would start. And it was all preclinical. They had the clinical side as well, but it was mostly preclinical, the side that I was working at in the lab. But I worked in, again, it was all different labs. It wasn't just one lab I worked in. Right. It was it was always like either like drug discovery, virology, microbiology, dispensary, HPLC labs, toxicology, metabolic. So I was dipping in different places, helping out. And it was just a basic job. It wasn't like anything I'm doing now. It was going in, I was assisting the scientist, you know, like they were wanting things done. So like making prepping paperwork, or I
Right.
was
Okay. But
emptying bins and glass washing.
okay. So your connection though to so that's the direct connection from the packet of crisps incident to
Yeah.
to I quite like this biology thing. You've went off to do the computing thing because you were also interested in physics and electronics.
Yeah.
You then saw something that was maybe a wee bit more biology based, and you went, "I can do that."
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I didn't actually like when I thought about it. I didn't think it would be microscopes and stuff like that, like at biology, but it did sound really interesting. Like it just amazed me when I first went in, and I went in and I seen all the scientists and what the hustle and the bustle of the lab basically, and you see everybody just getting on with things and the machines doing their thing and like the what do you call it, I would say it was more like the structure. It was really, I really liked it. And
Right,
even
okay.
though I wasn't directly involved with it, I liked that. And I liked the science side of it because they didn't tell you much about Charles River when you applied because of what they do. It
Yes.
had a bad background, if you know what I mean. And a lot of people sort of frowned upon it. So it wasn't until it was like a secret club. So as soon as I was in, that was it. It sort of opened the world up. So you were like, you know, it was. I was walking in. It was like walking into like a war camp. They had big high fences and security, and I was like, oh, what the hell? What have I got myself into here?
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's a thing, isn't there, where it's it's like a big commercial world of people having proprietary knowledge of drugs and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. So I can understand that.
Yeah.
So how long were you there for?
So I was there for 8 years, and
Right, okay.
I changed jobs once in that time. Like I had became a lot like sort of like a lab aide to begin with, and then I went on to see, it was a lab aide job, but it was also like a cleaning job. So like I just cleaned the labs and stuff like that, emptied their bins. So it wasn't. It was like it was a different roles, if you know what I mean. It wasn't set in stone, and a lot of my colleagues were either in their 60s or their late 50s, ready to retire, and it was all these women. Like they were like sort of like they were like my grannies. There was like about I think there was about 10 of them. Like I can remember. And I mean, they were all brilliant. So it didn't quite suit me as a young guy.
Right,
And
okay.
so it was kind of a step in the door. And then I went into about a year. I had my 18th for them. Went to the pub with all these women and had my 18th for them. It was quite a good laugh. And then after my 18th, I joined a different department. I applied for another job as an animal technician.
Right, okay.
So I was looking like that now like furthered me into the company into like a higher band, if you'd like, and it allowed me to gain my animal license, and you know, on going to all these different other courses and like learn all these kind of procedures that they do, and like learn a bit more about like the ins and outs, say like the drug development with the animals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was a lot. It was a lot to take in, especially when I was that younger. Like when I was 18, 19 at that point. But it was like a lot of overtime as well. So, and it was quite repetitive work.
So they were. I mean, you and them were mutually investing, if you like, in your knowledge.
Yeah.
So you were developing your skill set there.
Yeah. Building my base, and then I went up to the next level, sort of thing.
Okay.
Left the lab aid / cleaning side of things, and then I accelerated in that. And you know, I think I was there. So I would have been 6 years. I think I was in the lab, the animal rooms for, and as an animal technician. And I got my part 1 and my part 2. Ironically, the same as here, but it was like you get part 1. And that allows you to, like, you know, work with animals and do health checks, look after them, you know, the basics. And it has to get all checked. You've got to get vetted by the vets, and you know, there's a lot of things to it. And you've got to go on a big course as well. And then part 2 allows you to do the procedures like taking blood samples. So then that's when it sort of opened my eyes up to like the blood kind of side of things, because I was like, I was taking this blood samples and I was never known sort of what was really happening at that side of things.
Right.
And I really got interested in that sort of things, and the hematology and the biochemistry side of things, and I was desperate to find out like what happened to these samples after I took them, and because it's ultimately that stopped at that point. The animals were obviously taken to pathology, and when the study was up, that was it. You never knew any more of it.
Right. Okay.
I think it's like 10 years it can take up for a drug to get onto the market.
Yeah, it is complicated. Right. Okay. So you're toddling away along there, and so if you had your 18th birthday there, surrounded by some friendly ladies, then at some point you thought to yourself, "Well, I've done a bit of this. I fancy a bit of a change." Was it the case of I fancy a bit of a change, or I'm getting more and more interested in what happens beyond this?
So it was a mixture of everything, really. A lot of my friends were moving on. They were like, I met my really good pal Daniel there, and he moved on, so I was kind of lonely.
All right, okay.
But at the same time, I was looking also when he was looking, and we were and I always seen the jobs for NHS, and I quite fancied working in a hospital. It kind of attracted me a bit, and I seen this job. Well, back then when I was a band 2, but it was a part-time job.
Right. Okay.
And I sort of said to myself, well, like Charles River, if I could get a step in the door, see what happens. And I was young enough, I could take the gamble. I never had very many commitments back then, so I decided that, in this lab, if I work there, I'll maybe get a better insight of what happens to the blood samples on a human side of things, which was even better. So I was like, nah, I'm going to go for it. And I think it was 2 days a week I would be working. Going from full time to part time was a big drop.
That's a gamble.
So, but it actually really paid off, because when I went for the interview here, and David Taylor, I don't know if he was one of the higher up ones here at the point where Aidan Clark, they interviewed me, and they said, they're like, it's a part-time post, you're in a full-time post at the moment. I was like, yeah, I know. I said, but I'm willing to take that risk because I want to get into doing something new, meet new people, try something new, something different. And they phoned me up, and the next day, obviously, they offered me the job. And then David phoned me half an hour later and said, look, do you fancy full-time hours? It will only be in for a couple of months, but we'll all be looking for somebody to do full-time hours. So I was like, that worked out perfect. So I got a wee bit of a tasty part-time hours for a couple of months.
Okay.
And then it went on to doing extra hours, and then ultimately led to a band 2 later on in about a year's time, I think it was.
Okay, but I guess you're coming into the process. I mean, your CV at this point's got a lot of things that you would need, I think, in a biomedical support worker, which is the ability to work in a lab, or you've worked in a lab, or at least you know the difference between like a sink and a pair of gloves. If you see what I mean. Yeah. So you're in the door, and this is again for the folk listening to this. This is in Edinburgh, yes. And this is the Western General.
Yep. The Western.
And this is the rest of the story, isn't it? Because you've been at the Western since you started doing this particular journey.
Yeah. That was 2013 I started here.
2013.
Yeah.
So you initially went in part-time, yeah?
Yeah.
And then there was offers of overtime and that progressed to... So did that progress naturally to a full-time job?
I pretty much. I think the first month I was part-time, and then by the November, because I started in the September, and then October was like a part-time month, so it was like I just took it easy for the month. I was like having all these days off. I didn't care what to do with myself. And then November came, and it was like, David was like, I think maybe it was Louise, was it David or Louise? At that point said that, are you be able to work extra hours? And I was like, no, that's absolutely fine. And I ended up working full-time extra hours right up until I got a band 2 full-time.
Yeah, right.
Which was, I'm sure it was about a year. I'm sure it was about a year that I went along with doing these extra hours and learning the job, basically. Working the foundations of what I am now.
Oh, and what were they making you do at that point?
So it was sample reception, and you weren't rotated back then. You were only rotated once you were like, you had worked your way up the chain a wee bit and you became a band 3. But I didn't know if they had band 3s back then. But back then I was like a sort of in reception, sample reception. You would get all these samples, and it was like I was like taken aback the amount of samples that we get. It was unbelievable. And you were processing the samples, making sure they were matching up with the patients, dealing with any problems that came in, like if they were unlabeled or if they were needing to get a test added on. You would deal with that. You would deal with phone calls. You'd be phoning doctors and nurses with blood results, spinning samples, and I was used to that. Obviously, for Charles River, I used to spin samples all the time, but they were quite small samples there. When I came here, there were huge samples, and I was like, didn't know what to do with all this serum. I was like, where did I put it all? Which was good, and learning the basic function of the lab. And it was, you've gone through and you were just doing the laundry, and I was like, I think I got asked to do stores at this point, and I was doing like a wee bit extra, so I was doing like the stores for like blood bank and immunophenotyping.
Right. Okay.
And I'd go to the stores with one of the colleagues here, and we would go and we would take trolleys on and do you would stock up the shelves. Your tubes, your lids, your gloves, your alcohol, your Virkon, all the bits and pieces, the general household stuff, which was quite good. And sort of, I made a lot of pals here, and a lot of, at that time, there's a lot of people that are retired now that are gone, that I met, but it was great. There was a good mixture of young people and older people, so it was a good laugh. It was good. That was until it led me to, I think there was a band 3 position opening, and I think it was 2015.
Right, okay.
That was. So at this point now, it's itchy feet, and I was like, right, I want to help out in the lab. I want to directly help do things, I want to work the machines. I want to, do a bit more than just labeling up and booking in. So it kind of gave me the thirst for that. So a band 3, ultimately, it wouldn't have guaranteed me that, but if I had a band 3, then it might possibly start rotating through the lab. Like what some people were doing, they were rotating to GI, antenatals, send away bench. There were some people at hematology, some people at autocore, some people at track. So I was looking. That's where my direction was to start going up and getting a bit more involved in the lab.
Okay, and in terms of getting more opportunities to learn more, is that round about the time where you thought to yourself, I maybe need to start getting some further qualifications in this, start to look at where I go? Well,
at kind of, but at that time I ended up having a kid, so that kind of spun things out a wee bit.
Right. Okay.
So that kind of it didn't hold me back, but it just kind of put me off, and I needed money, and I needed money to support. So at this point there was overtime going at hematology. So I was like, right, okay. So I could nail with two heads here. I could go and do a bit overtime in hematology and earn a bit more money. So at that point, I was like, nah, I'm gonna do that. So I put my name down for a few shifts, and it was great. So it kind of worked out. But that at that point, I didn't really know about the IBMS at this point, like
Right,
what you were
okay.
talking about. I wasn't really aware of what I knew. There was college that you could do, and I think a few people were doing it at that point, but I couldn't commit because of the kids. Becoming a young dad, and I've had like any time to myself. So getting that overtime in haematology was better than actually doing anything, because I was getting to do monospots, I was getting to make up slides, I was learning about bone marrows, coagulation, and popping up buffers. It was great. I loved it. But unfortunately, that had to come to an end, because there was obviously there wasn't the overtime was stopping, so I kind of had to come away for that again. So
Right,
which
okay.
which was sad, but at the same time, I got that wee bit of experience in there and a taste for haematology, so I quite enjoyed that. I really did.
But I mean, you've got the same issues that many folk have got, which is like, I've got to balance what I've got going on at home.
Yeah.
I've got to make money. What do what do I do? I mean, you're not. I guess you weren't in a position at this particular point to be as risky as you are when you made that initial leap from Charles River, were you?
Yeah, no, definitely no, because
No.
I was like, I mean, to be fair, I can't see myself moving anywhere ever again. But like at that point, I just knew that it was time to make money, and that's what it was there, because I had to support my child. So it sort of, that haematology overtime came at a great time, because it was like, oh well, I'm going to get a wee bit of experience rather than going towards like college and stuff like that. But after a couple of months, I ended up getting rotated anyway. So they obviously, we gained a bit more staff, like support worker wise.
Yeah.
And they ended up getting transferred down to GI, the gastro lab, the calprotectins and the celiacs. And I started working down there with Anne Jarvie and all the other staff, and it was brilliant. I loved it. Like gone down, and like you were working the Dynex, you were working the doing the maintenance. I love monthly maintenance. Like, the place is soaking.
Sorry, let's repeat that. You love monthly maintenance.
Oh, I love. Honestly,
Are you listening to this, biomedical scientist? Because somebody who loves monthly maintenance.
No, it was really. It's one of my favourite things to do in GI. And the place is soaking. Like, I've got hypochlorite all over me, and I'm going home stained, and but at least the machine's looking nice and fresh, nice and clean. The QCs will probably be all right, and like everybody will be happy. But nah, like there's 3 of them in there, so I could be doing 3 monthlies in a month, and it would be great.
Yeah,
I think they do weeklies now as well, but they're not as exciting as monthly.
Are these Dynex DS2s? Yeah.
Yes, I doing it downstairs in the basement.
To let the audience know I know what I'm talking about. That's all.
The pool lab.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you're going along this thing where you're trying to balance your life, and you're trying to balance earning potential and all that kind of stuff. And you've been rotated throughout various bits of the lab.
Yeah.
But you talked when you did your IBMS, because Kevin did a great talk at the Scottish IBMS annual conference that we had in Edinburgh back in, I can't remember now, was it November?
Yeah.
You got a wee bit of a standing ovation as well at the end. Let's just because you were really good. You talked about taking those steps on a further education, the further educational ladder. How did that process start? How did you what went through your head there?
Yeah, so that was just after COVID, and we gained Sarah Ogley, who is our ops manager now, and she came in and she said, look, these are the opportunities. There's the opportunity to do the IBMS portfolio, and I had kind of heard about it, because it's a bit more simpler. If like it's different from going to college. You're no away once a week, and there's a lot of commitment to that side of things. Whereas this side of things, it was in your own time, and it's a certificate achievement, part 1 and part 2 for the IBMS. So Sarah said, well, let's get the ball rolling with that. I'll get in touch with the training team with Isla. And it wasn't Isla at that time, it was a different person, but Isla was mostly the person that was there at that point. And they got the ball rolling, and they said, look, you want to give it a try? And I was like, yeah, why not? I've got nothing to lose. I can do it in my own time. I can work and pick it when I need to, and I got a mentor as well. So if I need any questions, I could crack the questions at them, and then I could figure out the problems between them and me and get it filled in. And I was like, no, I need to go for this, because now my eyes were set on, I had another kid. So I needed more money.
Okay.
So I was like, right, how do I get this? How do I get myself, prepared for the future? And the ultimate goal for me, to be honest, is to get to be a band 4. I'll be a happy man if I became a band 4. So this would allow me then to fire myself into a position where I could become a band 4 and apply to become a band 4, and if a job ever came up. So that was right up my street, and I went on to it, and it took me a long time to get the momentum going, because I hadn't been at school for ages, hadn't learnt anything for ages, so it was I was a bit rusty.
Yeah. Is there a lot of theoretical knowledge in it?
Oh, aye. So, and I mean, putting myself into the space, it was basically what I was doing. It was just writing it down, and you're doing a lot of the reflective practice.
Yeah.
Which was quite enjoyable, because then I was going to put myself in a situation, and then I would think about it, and then I'd write it down, and then I'd write down what I would do different about it. And it was as simple as that, basically. Along with other bits and pieces you would put into that, like wherever you were working. But it took me a long time for part 1. I think it took me about a year and a half, but I had to change. I lost my mentor in that time, and I had to get a new mentor. So, but I got through that, and then in between that, I got the training team. Isla and Lynn approached me and asked me if I wanted to do the careers day, Scotland's career event, and she asked me if I wanted to come along to that, and I was like, I'll probably get a wee bash, and that's when I was there talking about being a support worker to the school children, and it's not just about going into university. You can work your way up, like what I did. Start from the bottom and keep going at it, and showing them some experiments that we do in the lab. I'm working with the pipettes. I set up a pipette experiment where I was aliquoting different colours and mixing them into pipettes, manually, and I was saying to them, a pipette to us is like a plumber's spanner. We use plumbers and joiners have got hammers, and we've got pipettes and robots to do our work. So
right, okay. And how'd that go down with the kids?
They actually liked it. I think. I don't know if they laughed. They did laugh, but I think they were like, "What is he on?"
Yeah. We had an open day a wee while back. Did you take part in that? No.
I did, and that was the open day at the Western, and I did not a presentation, but I think they had waves of people coming in.
Yeah.
And I spoke to these people, and spoke to people as they come in to the reception, and explained to them, this is the front house. This is the first people you meet will be the reception and the support workers, and explained to them about how many samples. I think it was 5 or 7 million samples we had processed. So, and that was quite an eye-opener to some people, because a lot of people don't understand when they come to a lab, they just think it's one sample, because that's the one sample they're putting in. We've got hundreds of samples coming at one time.
Yeah.
And that, I think that opened their eyes, and especially with the GP work, nobody really thinks about the GP work because you never really hear of it. But seeing them tubs overflowing with samples really, I think, was a big eye opener for them.
Yeah.
But that was a really good day. It was a really good day, and I look forward to doing it again because, you know, it opens the lab up to understand how we work.
Yeah. Well,
Not just that we.
It's super important that we, I guess, it's no about ramming it down folks' faces, but it's just like gentle awareness of what it is that labs do. I think's generally a great idea for everybody to have a basic understanding of. So, you did your part 1.
Mm.
So then, was it time for part 2?
It was time for part 2. So part 2 actually come around, and me and Sarah and Isla had a chat, and we decided that we would go for as known as the Mary McDonald Award for the IBMS at the moment. I think it's a blue star award now. I think it is.
Yeah.
So basically, I went for that, and I wrote a wee paragraph about like what I had been doing for the part 1 and what I had been doing with the open day and the Career Scotland, and just wrote generally what it would mean to me to get the part 2 and get the fees paid for the year and a membership for the year, and I just which was really good because I ended up getting a magazine every month, and I was like, my partner was like, what's he getting this time? I was like, I get a magazine every month.
It's not for Amazon, honest.
No. I was like, here's a note. I got a notebook through the other day, and I was like, oh, this is well jazzy. I was like, I've never had a notebook before. So it was really good, and I won the award obviously with another guy down in England. Which was really good, and that really spurred me on a bit. It was funny because when I won it, I was getting these emails for these people for the IBMS asking, oh, could you give us a bit of a spiel? And I was like, about how you won because you're going to feature in the magazine.
Now you're famous. Now you're famous.
I was like, what the hell's going on? I know. I was like, it was good, but at the same time, I'm not used to that kind of thing. So I was like, I'll just go along with it and I'll just write it and see what happens. And I started the part 2. And it was a bit of a dodgy start because in my part 2, when I was meant to start it, my mum passed away. So it was like, in that time, it was just like, things were just generally I wasn't wanting to do it. I kind of got swung off it for about 3 or 4 months, but I got my spark back, like especially with the staff here, everybody around here just being supportive with it and just saying, I'll get on with it, let's get it done. And my mentor and stuff, and Isla helped and stuff like that as well. And I got onto it, and I got it finished. It was really challenging, the part 2. It wasn't as just blasant as the part 1. It was, you had to get in and you had to put yourself in a position that you had never been in before, and like that was like, especially for a band 4 point of view, like you would had to have been doing what a band 4 does. So kind of it was a point of going to speak to the band 4s, or I kind of was already doing a lot of things anyway.
Yeah.
That I was taking responsibility for, and there was a lot of manual stuff, like manual. So like I was doing fecal extractions, so that played a big part in that as well. That I could sort of okay, I've done fecal extractions, I can put this into the portfolio as well, and all my experience around the whole lab sort of paid up for that because. There was a thing with audits. Now, I'd heard about audits, but I never really knew what was happening with them. So I kind of had to go out looking for the information for the audits. And I got to do quite an interesting health and safety audit with Stephen Swanson, who's the health and safety here. I went round with him and did like the health and safety audit with him, which was quite interesting. I really enjoyed it, actually. And then there was like a fridge audit, and then there was a training audit. So I had to do that in my free time and sort of make time in my work day as well to do that. And it was really good. But I eventually got through it.
Does that take us up to the present day then? So when was that? Because you you almost celebrated the part two
Aye.
by having a starring role at the Scottish IBMS away day.
Yeah. That was I passed it in October, so it would have been the month after. I had submitted it, but I think they had a bit of a problem with the backlog. So by the time I found out, it was about October, September time, and I'd passed it. So I think I started doing it. So the October before it, I took a draft copy and I just worked on the draft, and I hadn't heard that I'd won the award or anything, so I was like, no, I'm just going to work on the draft.
Yeah.
Just in case. So I worked on this draft copy and I worked right through it. And then I think by the new year, that's when I got the all clear and got to go.
Yeah.
And so it was like a year it took me to get the part two.
Well, very well done. And on the day of the IBMS annual conference in Scotland, you got a bit of a standing ovation at the end.
Yeah.
And folk laughed at your jokes, which is always a good one. You did really, really well.
Yeah.
So let's try and start to wrap this up with a couple of questions.
Yeah.
What's next for you?
So I've got a few things
you can't
lined up.
stop now.
No, I can't stop now. I've got the feelers out, and I'm hoping I'm starting my membership again with IBMS.
Okay.
I'll keep the magazines coming. I like the magazines. Nice reading when I'm on the toilet and stuff like that. I'll keep that going, and definitely I'll keep my eyes peeled for a band 4. That's my big goal. That's what I want to be line for.
Would you consider a move to a different discipline?
Possibly, but this is home. You know, the Western.
Yeah,
this is where my how's it to say it with your butter spread or whatever. I don't know, but this is where
the grass is genuinely greener on your side of the fence. Is that what we're saying? Right. Okay.
But I mean, I would look. I would definitely keep my eyes peeled. Obviously, now it's just a bit strange with how the projection is going with the money side of things.
Yeah.
But if it means I have to site tight, I would definitely stay in the blood science labs in the NHS Lothian.
I guess money in the NHS is a kind of cyclical thing. So you know, it doesn't take long for things to correct out. So I'm sure there'll be opportunities.
Yeah.
Beyond. Have you got any aspirations beyond the band 4?
I hope maybe when if the opportunity allows, when I become a band 4, possibly push further up. But I would like to concentrate on becoming a band 4 before I pushed any further. But definitely joining the scientists would be a dream. But it's quite far away at the moment. But the best I can do now is go for the band 4 and see what happens for there. And I definitely would definitely like to push up further up in that. But we'll see how that goes first.
There are plenty of people in leadership positions who have started. I mean, as you described. What you describe as the bottom, and they, it genuinely is about, the world's your oyster. If with enough application and enough effort, people can pretty much do what they want. So, that's really good to hear. And I guess the final thing for me is. If you go right back and you were speaking to those school kids again, what encouragement would you give them? What lesson, if you like, would you say was most valuable for them if they were considering a lab-based career? What would you tell somebody younger than yourself?
Keep your eyes open. and keep an open mind when you're coming into it, because the way I've came, you've come to different places. You can go different levels, you can go different directions. It's definitely seek out what you enjoy most in that level, and go towards it. And definitely, if it's your thing, hematology, if it's biology, concentrate on that, because that's what you want. For me, I like the variety. I like the different disciplines, and I've been lucky enough to dabble in loads of different ones. But for the younger self, that I would definitely say keep your eyes open and take every opportunity you can get, because this is how I got here. I got an opportunity, and I said, oh right, it sort of just, it was like a domino effect, because I was like, okay, I'll start the part 1, and then the part 2 came with the award, and then it came with everything else after that.
Yeah.
So definitely take every opportunity you're given, especially when you're working your way from the bottom up, and work hard. Work hard, and it will pay off.
Well, Kevin Waugh, it's not an episode of This Is Your Life, but this that's a fantastic story, Kevin. Thanks for sharing it with us. You've been an absolute pleasure to talk to. Your performance at the IBMS in Scotland, sorry, I'm just plugging it because it was a thing that happened. We had an annual conference, and Kevin was at it, and he was one of the speakers. Was phenomenal, and you had the room really, really engaged, and you're an absolute credit to the lab that you currently work in, and I'm sure we all wish you well in the future, and I'm sure we'll be back here again for another conversation. Let's just see how this one. Yeah. Let's see how this one turns out.
Definitely. It's exciting times. But anyway, thanks very much for having me.
No problem. Let's say cheerio to everybody. That's us.
Yeah. See you later, everybody. Take care. All the best.